Good afternoon. I hope everybody was able to get outside and enjoy the nice sunny weather over the weekend. Thank you to everyone for making our Lifetime Wellness Wednesday last week such a success. Hopefully you learned something in the world of nutrition, fitness, mental health, or life skills. And hopefully you had a little fun along the way while doing it. I know I appreciated the preparation put into the day by our faculty, and I'm sure they would love to hear from you if you enjoyed their sessions as well. Today in community time, we will have two more senior speeches. I hope you look forward to these perspectives as much as I do. Please help me welcome to the podium in the Thurber Arts Center, Parker Smith and Marco Milinkovic.
Good afternoon. Throughout my life, out of all the different traits I could like about myself, I have always taken the most pride in my generation. No matter where I lived, be it here in Huntsville or in Gig Harbor, Washington, my peers all shared a common thread, a certain spark inside of us that has revolution-starting potential. Like most of you watching, I'm part of Gen Z. We are characterized as the generation who possesses virtually no gray area. We can protest like no tomorrow, but become a shrinking violet when it comes to asking a waiter for a refill. One minute we're making statements against oppression and bigotry, and the next we're laughing at the first random fatalistic or nonsensical meme that pops up on our dashboards. I clearly remember one instance where some friends and I were debating with each other about abortion laws, and as the conversation died out, I opened my computer to see a Pinterest post with the phrase, "Mean age tootant needle teetles." I laughed for about 5 straight minutes. It was like the meme had pulled a cork out of the bottle I had been pressing my emotions into for the entire conversation, because of course, no one is going to be lighthearted on the topic of abortion. It was a release of stress, and as pop culture and memes have developed, along with how the media has been increasingly depressing and stressful this year, the strangest things can make us laugh. Another example of this would be a personal favorite of mine, which is a Mr. Sandman meme crossed with the urban legend of the Hook Man. Mr. Sandman, man me a sand, make him the cutest man car door hook hand. It was just an old Tumblr post, a text box that starts out with the normal lyrics to the song and ends in a funny way. The punchline, or the part that's supposed to make you laugh, is when the text box doesn't turn out to you the way you thought it would. It's like a more harmless yet dark version of shock humor, where the shock just comes from the unexpected silliness that arises from the sleep-deprived brains of today's young adults and teenagers. I would give more examples, but just thinking of the phrases that come with them makes me laugh, so for the sake of time, I'll stop here. I believe that there is a clear divide between the way each generation perceives the world around them, because historical events, trends, and advances in technology certainly shape our individual perspective of the world. I think that one of the big issues we have is that while different generations can be good at listening to each other, we aren't so good at hearing one another. Dismissal is all too common, and we all have our own issues that need acceptance. Sometimes, because we are younger, showing passion for change can be dismissed as being too fragile or being a dreaded online social justice warrior. What the previous generations have forgotten is that at our age, they too were also introduced to issues on the global stage. Time has numbed them to the newness of current issues. Because we are young, we cannot be seen as wise or experienced in anything. When I was 15, I moved from Washington State to Huntsville. Of course, I had known we were moving, but what mattered to me was the when we were moving. The day I arrived home from sleepaway camp, I found my house as bare-boned as it had been when we moved in. That's when I learned we were leaving in 3 hours. I was told to shower, grab my stuff, and get in the car. What happened next was a 4-day trip with everyone, minus our dog, in the smaller of our 2 cars, driving upwards of 9 hours a day just to get to Alabama before school started for me and my brother. When I heard I would have to move again, I said I was feeling bitter. I was told I was too young to feel bitterness, and I was just being dramatic. Yes, there's absolutely zero reasons or ways I could ever have the capacity to be bitter, especially in this world where we will grow up and be tasked with fixing the mess left in the wake of corrupt politicians. Of course, I'm being sarcastic. Being told I was too young for bitterness felt like my emotions were being hushed and shut out because they were an inconvenience. I felt I wasn't being listened to, which seems to be a common trend among people our age. There are two sides to this road, though. Hypocrisy runs rampant in our society, with one group claiming the other doesn't listen while simultaneously not listening themselves. We need to learn to respect each other properly. Some think respect means treating someone as an authority, and others believe it means treating everyone like a person. In some scenarios, the meaning can go both ways. For example, for a person in a position of power, like your parents or your boss at work, the relationship could be, if you don't treat me with authority, I will treat you like a person, even without them or you realizing it. Each little quip about respect contradicts one another. For example, you always hear respect is earned, not given, but also respect your elders. It's important to give a basic level of respect to everyone until they give you a reason not to. Basic human decency should be something you extend to everyone. A high level of respect should, and does, take work to earn. I think we all need to remember the golden rule and set a standard for how we treat each other, no matter who they are. Going back to the debate on abortion I mentioned earlier, one of the participants used the common argument of, what if the fetus could have cured cancer? Which only added to the already heated discussion that was dominated by liberals. Even though I didn't agree with them, or their argument, I still gave them respect, because it is their right to believe what they wish, as long as it is not affecting others. I gave them the basic level of respect that we should give everyone. Without respect, our society will not function. We need to learn how to coexist with one another, how to listen and respect everyone on a basic level. If we don't listen and respect each other, there is no way that we communicate effectively. Without communication, we cannot peacefully function as a society. We have to change the way we think about respect and strive to apply that new understanding every day. This, I believe, is the only way our society can move forward productively. I am very proud of my generation, and I believe we are the key to the future. We just need to make the right moves by respecting everyone on a basic level and validating others. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I first started writing this speech a couple of weeks after the Capitol riots. And like for most Americans, it was a shocking and disappointing day. A day where our democracy seemed more fragile than ever before. But what hit me the hardest was not the violence or even the deaths, but rather the ideas upon which the attacks were based. When some of the rioters were interviewed within the Capitol during the siege, they responded that they were there to stop the steal, to defend their freedom, and to keep lawmakers accountable. And when asked to elaborate, they said, well, we saw it. We all saw the election being stolen. It was as clear as day to them that the system was rigged, so much so that they were willing to risk their lives to save their country. Yet, from the multitude of failed court cases, we know that the election was not stolen. The next president didn't suddenly take away anyone's freedoms. The rioters' actions weren't saving the country, they were trying to destroy it. And so it brings me to the topic of truth. It is obvious that we saw a distorted reality in the minds of these people. Though unfortunately, the issue of what is true or not has come to encompass a lot more than just a minority of rioters. We are seeing a growing schism in what the left and right and middle fundamentally see as reality. We can't even begin to critically discuss our country's issues because we can't agree on what the issues are or whether they even exist. So the question becomes, how do we find a common truth, and how do we prevent our political schism from growing to the point where we get something worse than the Capitol riots? What is the root of this disillusionment on both sides of the spectrum? I'd argue it's two things that have caused this. The first is the toxic gamification of American politics. Politics seem to be less and less about doing what's best for Americans and more about just winning, one side against the other, like a red versus blue football game. Politicians will do whatever it takes to get you onto their side, and in order to win, they will oversimplify and manipulate issues and policies into easy-to-understand, repeatable one-liners. From saying that building a wall will be the solution to illegal immigration, to saying that introducing new social programs is as simple as cutting military spending and taxing billionaires more. This approach is toxic. It ignores long-term consequences for short-term gain. It crudely stereotypes whole groups of diverse people together. It depicts those who disagree with your views as caricatured villains, while simultaneously pretending your side is somehow infallible. The second problem is with social media. When the rioters in the Capitol confidently said that they saw the election being stolen, I reckon that none of them physically saw any election fraud in person, and that they were just repeating whatever they saw on their Facebook groups, subreddits, or group chats. The problem is that, unlike in the real world, where we are surrounded by a diverse set of ideas and perspectives, social media naturally creates echo chambers. It becomes easier to find groups of individuals like ourselves, those who share our hobbies and interests, but also our biases, our skewed views. These echo chambers make it easier to fall to our confirmation bias, where we become more likely to believe something just because it supports our previous beliefs, no matter how absurd. It makes it easier for those with no credentials to appear authoritative on a subject matter under the guise of anonymity, easier to create a mob mentality, easier to lose our sense of individuality. And as a result of this, we lose our own unique, nuanced perspectives. So how do we deal with these two problems? And honestly, that's not a question I will pretend to know the answer to. However, I hope that by telling you a short story about my personal experiences, that we can get a little closer to solving it. When I was younger, I always believed that my opinion was correct. After all, I was the kid that went around telling everyone that Santa Claus was fake long before it was good for them. For me, it was always a childish black and white, I'm right, they're wrong. This changed in high school when I found myself with hours and hours of shared free periods with my best friend. Every day, we would find our seat at a little table in the corner of the cafeteria, and when we weren't talking about shoes or watches or cars, our conversations turned to politics. It felt like we covered every trendy political issue, from discussing freedom of speech on social media, to debating about the pros and cons of nationalized healthcare, to asking ourselves whether our military spending was really justified. Previously, I had always viewed those who had disagreed with me as enemies, or as ill-informed and obviously wrong. But now, I was debating with my best friend, and I knew that those labels didn't apply to him. I could no longer dismiss the opposition to my ideas as straight-out false. And for the first time, I started to lose debates. Sometimes it was my viewpoint that was ill-informed, and we often settled on a solution, a compromise, somewhere between our two views. Yet, when we looked online to research these topics, or when we listened in on Democratic or Republican students' conversations, it seemed that this conclusion was never reached. These groups were stuck in those echo chambers where overly simplified arguments always win over the complex ones. It seemed like the little table in the corner of the cafeteria where we spent our free periods was the only place where a common truth came to surface. And so this brings me to the point that I was trying to make. I think that part of the problem with today's discourse is that we don't have that little table where we can sit down and honestly discuss issues with other individuals. It should be obvious that the issues worth debating over will be complex and hard to solve, but we fail to realize this because we never directly converse with others. We simply restate what politicians or news outlets or social media comments tell us. We never spend the time required to develop nuanced viewpoints or to understand the root of the other side's stances. And so I urge you, no matter your political affiliation, to go out and find those little metaphorical tables where you can discuss issues with real individual people. Not just with those that agree with you, but especially with those that disagree with you, those who have widely differing perspectives from yours. and not just to flatly reject and ignore their points, or take an argumentative or defensive tone, or to take disagreements personally, but to really listen to them, to show patience and tolerance, to compromise. After all, reconciliation and de-escalation will only occur when both sides give up something, when both sides show humility and accept and understand the other side's beliefs. And while it may seem like such a small and inconsequential action, reintroducing humanity and nuance into our politics on an individual level will, little by little, start to make an impact locally and eventually nationally. Thank you.
The spring season is definitely in full swing as we have another full week of athletic events. Baseball has 3 games this week: at home Tuesday versus New Hope, Thursday on the road at Lee, and Saturday a doubleheader versus Decatur Heritage. Girls golf will travel down south to compete in the Hoover High School tournament this week. Boys and girls soccer will play Buckhorn at home on Tuesday and will travel to Scottsboro on Thursday. Softball will have 4 games this week: at Tanner on Monday, at Westminster Christian on Tuesday, at home versus Priceville on Thursday, and we'll wrap up the week Friday at May Jemison. Boys and girls tennis will compete Monday against Westminster Christian, and the girls will take on St. John Paul II on Wednesday, while the boys will compete against Madison Academy on Thursday. Track and field will have 2 meets this week: Tuesday in Coleman for the North Alabama Circuit, and Saturday at the James Clemens Invitational. Good luck to all of these teams. Speaking of athletics, I hope everybody received Mr. Davenport's announcement on Friday that students and faculty are now able to attend all home athletic contests for free this spring. I know your classmates will truly appreciate you coming out to support them. We'll still be wearing masks and maintaining social distance at these and all school events, but we're excited about opening up attendance and offering it free to students. Congratulations to our Academic World Quest team. Over the weekend, one of our teams finished second in the regional competition and have now earned the right to compete in the national tournament later this year. The qualifying team included Marco Milinkovic, Alex Covert, Harrison Wethington. This is the first time in Randolph school history that a team is qualified for the national tournament. Congrats to the team and the faculty sponsor, Mr. Hilling. Also, we're excited to announce that we'll be hosting a prom this year on April 10th for juniors and seniors. While this year will definitely be unique, as everything has been, we're glad to be able to host a Mardi Gras themed event that will include a sit-down dinner, lead out, and the first ever homecoming/prom court. More information will be coming soon. Also, be on the lookout for an announcement for our Arts, Athletics, and Academics Day on Wednesday, April 21st. It looks to be another fun day on campus and a break from our normal classroom experience. We might even discover some hidden talents from classmates that you didn't expect. I hope everybody has a great week. Be excellent to each other. Seniors, you're dismissed.